Prince Charles giggled as he was presented with a life-size wool replica of his own head on the first day of his royal tour. The prince laughed incredulously as he was shown the intricate detail of the needle-felted sculpture, along with one of the Queen created in honor of her Platinum Jubilee, at Government House in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Charles and Camilla touched down in St. John's on Tuesday to kick off a whirlwind three-day visit to Canada in honor of the Queen's Platinum. After being officially welcomed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Charles and Camilla met grandmothers in a knitting circle before sampling local produce and pouring 2,000-year-old iceberg beer at a local pub. Their visit has received a mixed reception from the Canadian public. The Prince of Wales has been urged to apologise for the treatment of Indigenous communities in Canada on behalf of the monarch. Cassidy Caron, National Council President of the Métis people, said she intended to raise the issue with Prince Charles when they meet on. In his first speech of the three-day trip, Charles, 73, referred to reconciliation, saying, "We must find new ways to come to terms with the darker and more difficult aspects of the past, acknowledging, reconciling and striving to do." The UK enjoys a warm relationship with Canada, where the Queen is head of state, and whose Platinum Jubilee Charles and Camilla's visited. But the country is coming to terms with the grim discovery last year of hundreds of bodies in unmarked graves at former church-run schools, where Indigenous children were forcibly relocated for generations. Nevertheless, after the royal couple landed in Newfoundland last night, they received a very warm welcome from cheering crowds, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and senior leaders from Indigenous. After his maiden speech, there was a far lighter tone as Charles and Camilla began their busy schedule of royal engagement. The prince was introduced to representatives of the Campaign for Wool in Canada, a cause close to his heart, and around a dozen expert knitters who make an array of baby and adult clothing for the Newfoundland Outport Nursing and Industrial Association. Among the star pieces was a replica of a light blue knitted cardigan given by Nonia to the Queen after the birth of the prince in 1948. "I bet I wore it," the prince said after examining it. "Have you seen photographs?" Meeting a group of women hard at work on their latest knits, he joked, "You're knitting, not nattering?" Told they had been doing plenty of both before he arrived, the prince disclosed he had learned to knit at the age of 8 or 9 but has now admiring the skills of one woman, he noted, "I'm sure you can do it." Watching television at this, particularly keen to find out whether any of the group had introduced the next generation to the skill, he said, "The thing is getting the young people doing it. Maybe it's something you do as you get older. People learn from their grandmothers, don't they?" The prince was presented with a pair of patterned grey and white mittens as a gift, as well as some Canadian wool and instructions to design his own carpet. The prince and duchess then visited the Commonwealth Walkway, a commemorative Platinum Jubilee project. They undertook a speedy walkabout, shaking hands with dozens of locals, posing for photographs with babies and patting a pug. The royal visit would not be complete without an unveiling of a bronze marker to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee, and a tree planting ceremony. The royal couple watched as schoolchildren planted an ivory silk lilac tree as part of the Queen's Green Canopy project in Canada. Later, Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall delighted locals by getting into the spirit of the Newfoundland and Labrador tradition today by sharing a pint and trying freshly repaired food at a local. After a walk along the Quidi Vidi Harbour, the royals popped into the lakeside watering hole to try their hand behind. Charles and Camilla poured a couple of pints of the local 2,000-year-old iceberg beer to cheers from around the pub before the Duchess announced very good while supping on a table set up for local merchants and restaurant owners to show off their produce. The future king and queen met local chef and restaurant owner Jeremy Charles, who handed the prince his book Wildness, an ode to Newfoundland, and taking the book Charles smiled broadly, exclaiming, "Is it 100 ways to cook a moose?" Mr. Charles laughed and explained the concept as a celebration of the wild food of. The New York Times described Mr. Charles as a leader in a growing movement to celebrate the cuisine of the North. Co-owner of the brewery, Justin Fong, said, They were both great sports. They've given us all great memories of their time. We were planning the visit for 2 months and it went without a hitch, so we are delighted. Charles and Camilla later tried their hand at rug hooking, where discarded material is cut into strips and used to make practical and decorative items like mini tapestries or table mat. Instructor Catherine McCausland put the couple through their paces, threading the pieces of material through a Hessian-type cloth, and the Duchess looked over at her husband and said, "You're much better." The future king pulled a face and laughed as he grappled with the task after the couple had met budding business owners in the Quidi Vidi Village Artisan Studios, where craft entrepreneurs are taught all aspects of creating a successful company. Outside around a small waterfront area, the couple went on a walkabout, meeting locals and even ordered a royal sundae from a stall, made from blueberries, vanilla ice cream, and when the couple came across a huge Newfoundland dog, the Duchess let out a gasp of delight and stroked it while Charles asked the owner, Ed Jackman, "Is this as big as they get?" Charles and Camilla were given a warm welcome as they touched down in Canada Tuesday, with flag-waving schoolchildren and well-wishers turning out in force to greet. They were greeted by Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, senior leaders from the Indigenous communities of the region and Canada's Prince Charles has faced calls to apologize on behalf of the royal family for the treatment of Canada's Indigenous. Cassidy Caron, National Council President of the Métis people, said she intended to raise the issue personally with the heir to the throne when they meet tomorrow. Mary T.J., Executive Director of Child and Family Services at Carrier Sakani Family Services in the province of British Columbia, said, "They also have to understand that they are not the leaders in our nation," adding that recognition of the harms of colonization are needed rather than just a trite apology. The pressure comes following 2 recent royal visits to the Caribbean, by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Earl and Countess of Wessex, attracted criticism for promoting colonialism and calls for reparations over Britain's role in the historic slave trade. Delivering a speech in both English and French, Charles referred directly to the process of reconciliation in Canada, talking about our collective need to come to terms with the darker and more difficult aspects. He said, however, as we look to our collective future, as one people sharing one planet, we must find new ways to come to terms with the darker and more difficult aspects of the past, acknowledging, reconciling and striving to do. It is a process that starts with listening. He continued, "I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to discuss with the Governor-General the vital process of reconciliation in this country, not a one-off act, of course, but an ongoing commitment to healing, respect and understand. I know that our visit here this week comes at an important moment, with Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples across Canada committing to reflect honestly and openly on the past and to forge a new relationship for the future." He added that he and his wife look forward to listening to you and learning about the future you are working to build. As so often in the history of this country and her people, Canadians have embarked on a journey that demands commitment, and my wife and I could hardly be more privileged to travel part of this journey with you, and we are deeply grateful for your warm welcome, which we will carry with us throughout this entire